Hello, Apple sheep everywhere. It's been a while. Have not live streamed for a while. How's everybody doing? Open up Windows here. Not Windows 10. I'm just opening up the Super Chat window. That's me. You don't want to hear me. Hello, Hassan. Hello, Joel. Hello, Boom Flare. Hello, I'm Moreno. Hello, Ratchet. Hello, Liam. Hello, Infinite Gamer, Branson, Bates, Rixu. Oh, there's too many to count. There's so many. Okay, I don't need two live chat windows. I just need to open a super chat window to make sure I don't lose those. Very good. Welcome everyone. Hopefully today you were enjoying the new Tailosive Tech vid. Hope you guys liked it. If you have not watched it yet, please go watch it now. That's definitely more interesting than what we're going to be talking about on here. Okay, so I have that window and I have the chat. Good. Karan Jot says, say my name. I probably messed that one up, but I tried. Oh, how is the fire situation? Thank you for asking. And also, thank you for all of your very supportive concerns for Oroville's wildfire situation. And for those who don't know, personally, where I live, there was recently a big wildfire, because it's summer, it's about 100 degrees out, and people are smoking, doing bad stuff all the time. And fires were within like 3 miles of my house, and I was given an evacuation warning, so we were told to be evacuated at any given moment. They were very close to giving us the order, which evac order means like you have to get out, you have to leave, they'll force you out of your home. Luckily, we were just in warning for a long time. House was filled with smoke. It worked out. The fires died down now. It's out of the way. Thank you for all your support on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, for saying that you don't mind if there's no videos for a while as long as I'm safe. I appreciate that. But however, I kept the videos coming. I didn't have to leave the house, so luckily we're all good. My girlfriend is taking the day off right now. Thanks for asking. Please become a great YouTube channel. I think I already am. No, I'll try. I'll try to be a great one. Thank you for everything. Oh, good. I was watching the iPhone 8 7 minutes ago. You were watching the iPhone 8? Probably the video. That's probably what you meant. Anyway, yeah. You know, it's been certainly a long year talking about this thing. There were definitely parts of the year where all I talked about was the iPhone edition because that's all anyone wanted to watch. I got so sick of that, and now I guess we're getting a little bit closer, so it's fair to say that the iPhone's a little bit more relevant. 2 months away now. Yeah, we're in the middle of, just about the middle of July, then it's August, then September, and that's it. That's the big month. It's most likely iPhone edition. That's okay, I'm just going to call it what I think it'll be called, which is edition, and that's what I want it to be called. I think that makes the most sense. I get right now, especially everyone's talking about why they don't think it's that, or that doesn't make sense, or it'll be the 8, or it'll be the X, or the 2017 iPhone. I'm just going to call it what I think it'll be called, which is edition, but I'm predicting that will be unveiled in September, but not the pre-orders and stuff won't be available till next month in October. But the 7S pre-orders will be available within, as usual, 2 weeks of the unveiling. But of course, demand for the 7S and 7S Plus is going to be a lot lower, a lot lower. So you should be hired at Apple. I know the wrong companies are paying me right now. See, I'm doing this full-time now. YouTube is my full-time job, and yet all of my income is from Google, which I make fun of all the time. I'm always like, the Google Pixel's terrible. There's all these problems with YouTube that they need to fix, and I'm always praising Apple. Apple's not paying me at all. I'm paying Apple all this money to review their tech, and I'm convincing my viewers to buy Apple products all the time. Why doesn't Apple just step in and say, hey, we'll send you our products, you review them, that's the deal. I would love that. I don't need money from Apple, I just want the product so that I could have it soon, so I don't have to worry about pre-ordering it right before they go live, and I could just pre-order it right before they're available and then review it and tell everyone why it's great. That way when they do come out, everyone will want one. I don't know why Apple doesn't do that. Welcome, Sean. I'm glad you finally caught a live show. Yeah, PhonePod, it won't be called PhonePod. I'm just trying to randomly guess because Apple loves to randomly guess things. No rear case for the iPad Pro? Oh, no, I don't need one. The iPad just get a little bit too bulky when you put a rear case on the back. Anyway, 2 months till the iPhone edition, which means that the videos we're making on them right now are getting a little bit more relevant, and I think Up until that unveiling, we're going to be a little bit more certain about all of the details. I think design-wise, we have it pretty straightened out by now. We're very confident of that it's going to look the way we're seeing Venya Yeskin post about it. That's pretty set in stone. I really hope the most recent leak about pricing isn't true. That's crazy expensive. However, here's one way I could, because I didn't talk about this in today's video, and everyone's talking about it in the comments. So $1,200 for the cheapest iPhone edition, $1,400 for the higher up one. There's only one way I can justify this, and I bet most people don't. Most people aren't going to justify this or think this is a legitimate reason. I do, though, is if they include AirPods with the purchase. Now I start to understand why they might charge $1,200 for it, because you're spending like $1,000 on the phone itself, which is what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be $1,000, and then the higher up one would be around $1,200. But if they are going to include AirPods in the purchase, again, that would be fantastic. That would be one of the best iPhone combos. No, I think that'd be the best iPhone sale you've ever had. You get these magical, amazing headphones, as well as this premium smartphone that changes the game for the iPhone lineup. If you got those in one package, I can kind of understand the $1,200 starting price. You're getting $200 pair of headphones with a $1,000 iPhone. Makes sense. $1,400 I have a little bit of trouble justifying, especially because I'm realizing now that I really don't need the 256 gigs of storage, because I have an iPad with half a terabyte. If my iPhone fills up, I think I'm just going to offload it onto the iPad. I don't need two devices that both have a quarter terabyte on them of free space. So I could store two iPhones with 256 gigs of storage on my one 10.5-inch iPad. So I don't think I'll need to spend the extra money on a fully maxed out iPhone edition. I think I can settle with the cheapest one, because 64 gigs is fine. Ever since I got Verizon Unlimited, I've been streaming all of my music. I've been streaming my YouTube videos and movies. I don't need to download as much since I have, Verizon Unlimited, so I can use as much data as I want wherever I am. That's been great. So I don't need to download as much. And Fatal Carpenter, yes, you have a very good point. Red is charging $1,400 for that weird thing, which is a phone that's really designed to be a camera. It's more of a smartphone built into a really small piece of camera equipment. Yeah, the Red phone is just weird. I don't understand it, but I think we're all going to forget about that in a couple of years. I think that's Red trying to generate hype, and they know that MKBHD is going to buy 3 of them, and they were right. It's not going to change the smartphone game. I don't understand when everyone compares the Galaxy S8 to the iPhone, and they're like, see, the iPhone looks so outdated now. And then something like the Red Hydrogen 1 comes out. It's got that weird-looking back. It's got screws all over it so that you can latch it onto other modules from Red. And we've seen through patents what the screen is going to look like, and we don't point at that and say it looks dated. No, the iPhone's dated, though, because that's a piece of glass and it has bezels. So now the Hydrogen 1, we don't care that has bezels. That's fine, because it's Red. Red's never made a phone before. So that's great. Robert says, Bewitch says, I was going to get a 512, but then Verizon didn't have them in stock, so I just got a 256. It's easier to make payments than to just fork over retail price. Yes, 512 gig is excessive. That's why I bought the 512 gig, is I knew I would never fill that up. Plus, if I get the 512 gigabyte version iPad, I know that when the iPhone edition comes out, I don't need to get the fully maxed out version. If I fill up that iPhone, I'm just going to offload the footage onto the iPad. Anyway. The bezels are so small, says the son. Yeah, that's great. How do you donate? You need Safari. You need Safari. For those who don't know, if you really want your question answered, I will read it in Super Chat. And you can use Safari on your iPhone or your iPad or your Mac, whatever. Or Chrome. If you're not on Android, anyone can Super Chat, even if you're on the YouTube mobile app. How much storage have you filled in your iPhone? Well, Amsterdam, I definitely had like a... what do you call it? A wipe clean, because I ditched my matte black iPhone 7 Plus and sold it because I switched to a jet black for the later half of this year, and I lost a lot of deep storage that I wasn't using because there's lots and lots of vlog footage. I do lots of vlogging on the Tailosive Talks channel. Make a lot of content, take a lot of pictures. I back that all up to Google Photos, but I rarely on my old phone like wiped the drive on it clean because I didn't need to. I had so much space on it. And on this one, I believe I've filled like 29 or 30 gigs because I'm vlogging on it now, obviously. But I haven't got to the point yet where I haven't got to the point yet where I need to start cracking down on what needs to be on my iPhone, because everything on it right now works fine. I stream all my music. I don't have to download music. I don't need to download movies because I can stream it from Amazon or Netflix. So I'd say 29 to 30 gigs. That's why I don't care about getting the 256 iPhone, especially if it's going to be this expensive. Really hope AirPods are included, though, if they are going through with this giant price. All right. Sacrame donated. Thank you for your donation. Says, what if HomePod doubled as a wireless charger? So that's an interesting idea, and I wish it could, because the HomePod is not a mobile product. It is plugged in at all times. So it would make sense if you could put your phone on it. But the problem is, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty confident that the HomePod's top piece is rounded glass, which means putting your iPhone on it would not be secure. It's not flat. You know, the top of it's kind of bubbled like this. So I don't think it could work. But if they wanted to make, I don't know, the next generation HomePod, so we're talking a long time from now. We're talking 1.5 to 2 years from now. That could be a great opportunity. That's not a terrible idea. But unfortunately, not this generation of HomePod. Not yet. Will you, I'm going to assume, Deed, you meant, will you buy the iPhone 7s or just the iPhone edition? I don't think I can afford right now. I get that you're treating me like I'm a big YouTube channel, and I appreciate that. You expect a lot. But I'm not sure that I can afford to buy both of the brand new iPhones coming out this year. I think everyone cares about the edition, or whatever it's going to be called. So I'm going to buy that one, obviously, because that's what everyone's talking about. That's the biggest redesign. Buying the 7S, honestly, is probably something I would do if I wasn't a tech YouTuber, because if you've been subscribed to my channel for a while, you know that personally, I'm not terribly excited for the iPhone edition. I don't think the changes that we're going through are going to be as significant as people are making them out to be. I think the consumer market right now, and Apple has to cater to the consumer market, which is sad because I think they're wrong, but the consumer market right now is really demanding a change in display size. If you don't remove bezels, if you don't change the size of your display, then it's not a new phone. This was made really obvious last year, I think, because when I got my iPhone 7, I thought it was one of the greatest upgrades we've ever had. We finally had that bigger battery because there's no headphone jack. We got Lightning headphones and that adapter in the purchase, so your old headphones would still work. Bigger battery, the dual camera, so you could take portrait shots. That's great. Stereo speakers, the waterproofing, that new A10 chip, solid-state home button. All of that together I thought was one of the best refreshes we've ever seen. But, excuse me, the tech world and consumer market really didn't care, just because all they could focus on was the fact that they removed the headphone jack. That's all anyone cared about. They're like, oh, they removed the headphone jack. It's a stupid upgrade. It looks just like the iPhone 6. So it's not a good upgrade. But Apple's realized that, and now is realizing that for people to get excited for an iPhone again, they have to do something drastic, like, you know, remove the physical home button, build it into the display so that the screen to body ratio is the highest it's ever been. There's so much display you're seeing at once. I think that the iPhone edition, at least for a couple months, is going to have the highest ratio of display to form factor that we've ever seen. So that's cool and all, but as someone who used the Galaxy S8 for several weeks, I can attest to this, that display is cool. It's nice that it's big and in a small form factor. You're going to get used to it in about a month. After a month, you're not even going to notice it. It's just going to blend into the background, and it actually doesn't change the way you use your phone that much. It's something that I think consumers want, but they don't realize that it's not a big difference. It looks different because aesthetically it looks cool, right? That the display goes edge to edge. So everyone's like, oh, that's the future. This is really cool. You get used to it very quickly. So we're hyping it up all year we've been hyping it up before the iPhone 7 came out, but then finally, when it does come out, everyone's going to get hyped up. Everyone's going to pre-order it as fast as they can, and then they get it. A month goes by, no big deal. You all get used to it. So I'm not terribly excited for that redesign, but if I was not a tech YouTuber and I was not trying to review all this brand new technology for you guys, and I was just some kid going to college trying to get a business degree or a film degree, I'd probably get something like the 7S, because I'd be like, I don't hate bezels. Bezels are fine. What's wrong with them? I like the fingerprint reader. I'd like to keep that. I also don't understand everyone hating about the size of the iPhone 7 Plus. Everyone's saying that that's a big phone and it's hard to carry around. I love that form factor. I love that size. It fits comfortably in my hand. Some guys are bigger. You know, some guys have larger hands, some guys are taller, and we don't want something to be more compact, more small. Sometimes we like to have like more real estate to work with. And I get that the new one's going to have a technically bigger display, but overall the usable area of the operating system is going to be smaller, I think. Because, yes, it's a 5.8-inch display, but I think at least 0.3 inches of that display is going to be used for just the widgets at the top with that HUD that cuts into the screen, as well as just where the home button's going to go, which we didn't have to cover in the iPhone 7 Plus. So I'm not terribly excited for it, but because it's in the news, I'm going to report on it. And then when it comes out, I'll review it, because that's what everyone cares about. Who cares about what other people think about the size of your phone? You're the one using it. Well, in my case, other people care because I got 32,000 people watching my channel. If I got the iPhone 7S, I would not get as many people interested. iPhone 7S only adds a couple features to the phones we already have, so it's not a massive upgrade. Honestly, if I wasn't a tech guy, probably wouldn't even get the 7S or the Edition, because I just got an iPhone 7. So I would wait 2 years for my contract to go up and then get one when I was due. But anyway. Let's see. SE stands for Special Edition, so there will probably not be another one. Yes, Ryan. For those asking about the iPhone SE2, something that looks a bit like this, but it has the specs of an iPhone 6S. I hate to break it to you, but there really is no rumors or reports about that developing or getting anywhere. Like, everyone's asking if they're going to refresh it again, and while I would love for that to happen, there's no news. And I feel like if there was one coming, we'd hear about it. Before the iPhone SE came out, there was reports on that all over the place. Everyone was talking about, like, Apple's making another 4-inch iPhone. They were going to call it the 6C. I remember making a video about that they're going to make a cheaper iPhone 6, and then it ended up not being called 6 at all. But that's essentially what you need to look for. If there's no rumors about it, there's no leaks or reports of another special edition 4-inch iPhone coming out, it's probably not happening. So I hate to burst your bubble. It's not what I would do personally if I were in charge of Apple. However, that's just what happened. 7 Durka, thank you so much for your massive donation. Once again, says back at it again with another $100. Love your videos, man. Just trying to help you get new tech to show all your fans. 7 Durka, you are too kind, too generous, and thank you so much for your donation. Yes, whoever has, I don't know what you do for a living, but I want your job, because you've got a lot of money. You're helping me afford the iMac Pro, if that does end up happening. Okay, Everything Tech Pro says, do you think the iPhone Edition features will be standard on the next year's iPhones 2018 at a lower price? Probably. So I hate to do this, but if people are asking about it, and because it kind of does tell us a lot about should you buy this year's iPhones, which is an important question given it's rumored to be so expensive, a lot of people aren't interested in paying $1,200 to $1,400 on an iPhone this year. The question does arise, what is the iPhone lineup going to look like next year? Which is crazy given this year's iPhone hasn't come out yet, but I do think, given on rumors that are already starting, it's been a long time, but the rumors are already starting, there's already leaks that there will be 2 iPhone Edition looking iPhones coming out in 2018 that have that same look, you know, with the edge-to-edge display, no physical home button, it'll be built into the screen, except it'll be on 2 sizes. We'll finally go back to a Plus model. We'll have an 8, this is my guess, we'll have an 8, which will be 5.2 inches, at least that's what the reported Samsung's developing the displays. That's the size. There'll be a 5.2-inch version, as well as a 6.4-inch version. So I'm guessing there'll be 2 iPhones next year, and they'll look like the iPhone edition. Probably be a bit faster. Probably have maybe by then they'll have Touch ID underneath the screen figured out, so they'll do that. So we'll have the regular version iPhone 8 and an iPhone 8 Plus, and we'll have 2 to choose from. That's what I'm guessing will happen. Anyway, we got another donation. The Absolute Zero says, so aside from building your sub base, where would you like to see your channel go on the next year? I think it's great, by the way. So building your sub base is, I'm hoping that the budget of the tech channel is able to grow thanks to you guys, and thanks for the channel growing, for you guys sharing it with your friends and stuff, which really helps. I'm hoping that the budget allows me to not have to be concerned if I'm going to review certain products. Right now, I've been doing this full time for about a month and a half. I'm still very, very new at this. I started doing YouTube full time at the beginning of June, and since then it's really tough being able to afford the products that I want to review because I'm the Apple sheep. So I feel like I have this duty to buy Apple's greatest tech in order to review, so that the Apple sheep know what's a good buy and what's not a good buy, what to wait for. And Apple, as we all know, is expensive, so it's tough, you know, because you make this profit from the channel. We're finally at a point now where I can expect a certain amount of views every month. I can expect a certain income that still fluctuates a bit, but I can expect it a little bit. I don't know if I'll be able to afford certain products that I think Apple sheep should know about. The one I'm talking about in particular is the iMac Pro. That thing is insanely expensive, but I think it's a unique product. You know, it's a brand new line for Apple. I think that's a game changer that I have a lot of faith in, and a lot of people don't. And I feel like as an Apple sheep, I need to review that for you guys, but it's so expensive, I'm not sure if by then we'll be able to afford it. I'm not sure if that can happen. It's already crazy hearing about these iPhone edition leaks that, you know, could be $1,400, hopefully $1,200, but it's fluctuating into that price point, and I feel like because the hype around it is so high, I don't have a choice. It doesn't matter how much it costs. I have to buy one because I'm reviewing it for you. I'm going to tell you if it's worth the money, if the display is really all that great and all that's cracked out to be. That's what you guys want to see. I think people get a little bit tired of me just reporting the news, and a lot of people would likely lose interest in my channel if the iPhone edition was coming out and I just talked about, well, it's out now, other people have it, but I don't, so that's fun. I get that a lot of people prefer the attitude, but I feel like I would lose interest if that wasn't a major element of the channel. So in terms of where I want to see the channel grow, I just want it to reach more people because I want more people to be informed. I want the fans of Apple to realize they're not idiots, because on YouTube there seems to be a predetermined bias that if you buy Apple products, you are a dumb, blind consumer who doesn't know how to spend money, that you're wasting your money. I don't think that's true, and I'm hoping that Tailosive Tech can convince people that they're not wrong. There is something you love about Apple, and that's okay, and it's not money you're wasting. Unless you bought the Apple book. That was dumb. Don't buy the Apple book. But other than that, that's where I'm hoping it goes. I'm hoping that my other channels, like the main channel where I'm hopefully going to be doing comedy sketches up pretty soon in the upcoming weeks. There's a lot of backstage drama going on with Tailosive right now. I want to do more movie reviews, but that channel just got a copyright strike, which is a big deal. And I want to work more on the Talks channel, so I have vlogs. I'm trying to get people together so we could have a Tailosive Tech podcast, because I get a lot of questions about that, like an hour-long podcast of just like tech guys discussing technology, so it's not just me ranting on stuff for hours and hours, which is what the channel is, and it seems to be working. But I'd really like to discuss this with other people as well, not just over the internet, like face-to-face. And there's lots of things I want to do, and I'm hoping the network of Tailosive grows, because I have a lot of plans for this network, and they're definitely not limited to just Tailosive Tech. I have stories I want to tell, I want comedy sketches I want to write, I want movie reviews I want to dive into, but it's tough. So right now I'm still very happy with where we are. Do you think the iPhone edition should be above 1,000? Excuse me. This is from Nader. Or the same price of the Samsung S8, and should they have the same curved edges as the S8? Okay, so obviously it's kind of weird when it's like, do you think the iPhone should be cheaper? It's like, well, I wish they would just send it to me for free. Obviously, I want the phone to be as affordable as possible. But reasonably, I'm going to anticipate that the iPhone edition is going to be over $1,000. Yeah, it would be great if it was the same price of the S8, but it just sounds like that's not going to happen. So it's unrealistic of me to anticipate that it'll cost that much. It'd be no different than me just wishing, I hope it's $10, and I hope I don't have to pay anything for it. You know, it's unrealistic. So I'm just expecting right now that the worst rumors are true. I should just expect it to be $1,200. I'm preparing for that, and my bank account is gonna get ready for a major hit. Just need to anticipate that at this point. But yeah, it would help if it was the same price as the S8, compete with Samsung, but honestly, I don't think Apple's worried about that at this point. They know that the hype around the iPhone edition is so high. They know that they have a huge army of Apple sheep that are going to buy it no matter what, to the point that they don't have to worry about pricing it competing with Samsung's. I mean, in videos online, you're probably going to see a lot of people compare it to the Galaxy S8 and say, S8's a better buy because it's cheaper, does the same stuff, does certain stuff, and it has a headphone jack, so it's better. You're going to see all that when the iPhone comes out. But Apple has that core user base that is the biggest fan of iOS. That's the primary reason people stick with iPhone. This is a big upgrade for those people. Those people who love iOS, they're not interested in switching. They're not going to switch to Android because it's cheaper. If anything, people who don't want to pay top dollar for the iPhone edition, they're going to buy the iPhone 7s. I think that's going to be the most underrated smartphone of the year because it's going to be overshadowed entirely by that new iPhone because of the edge-to-edge display. That's the game changer. And no, it doesn't need curved edges. I think that's a Samsung thing. But as I've said in the past, curved edges are cool. They help kind of make bezels seem less noticeable. But it's also not, I think, the future. You don't necessarily need curved edges. If you have them, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool. As long as the phone works and looks good, I'm fine with it. And the iPhone edition looks great. Galaxy S8 looks great. I'm glad that they have their own unique traits. I'm fine with that. I like that the iPhone edition is not necessarily having a chin. You know, the S8 has very thin bezels on the sides, but kind of larger bezels on the chin and forehead. I like that the edition, essentially, apart from that cutout at the top, is going to be one size bezel all the way around. I think that looks good too. Anyway, we got a donation. Titus Metter says, love all your videos, but there's a guy named Charles Jackson who has 18 subscribers. He steals your videos and re-uploads them as his. Thank you, Titus. You're not the first person to tell me about Charles Jackson. I found the channel months and months and months ago. I see that he re-uploads. Sadly, there's not much I can do about it because I found that. Obviously, it's just a direct parody account. I reported him to YouTube and said, this individual is stealing my content and calling it his own. YouTube went, we don't know what's wrong. He looks completely fine, so we're not going to do anything. And he's still there. That shows you how helpful YouTube support is. So it's a very broken website, so there's unfortunately nothing I can do about it. I did all that I could. iPhone, Sweden Ball says, iPhone Pro. I've also been telling all my friends about your channel. Keep up the good work. Love the videos. Wish I could donate, but I just can't right now. Sorry. Guys, you're donating your time. That supports me enough. You don't need to donate directly to be supporting the channel. Obviously, it helps in the chat because it gives me a bit of a better way to organize what comments and questions to read, and it supports the channel, obviously, but it's not required. Just watching the videos, watching the live streams, that helps the channel. Anyway. Do you think the iPhone edition will support Bluetooth 5? Asks Dakota Costin. There's currently no leaks or reports of it, but I certainly hope so. I don't understand why they're not putting Bluetooth 5.0 in the iMac Pro. That was a big shock to me at WWDC when they unveiled it, was that it says Bluetooth 4.2 technology. And I'm like, this is coming out in December. And Bluetooth 5 is out now. It's on the S8. Why aren't we implementing this in everything? This needs to be the new standard. Why does Apple think that a $5,000 machine shouldn't have the newest Bluetooth standard? So I'm hoping that Bluetooth 5 is like the next generation of Bluetooth, as in it's faster, the range is farther, you could Bluetooth audio to two different devices at the same time. So that's what Bluetooth 5 is. I hope they put that on the iPhone edition. Wouldn't it be great if you could pair multiple AirPods to one iPhone? You could have two people listening to music. It'd be like, you can't even do that with a headphone jack. You need to find some splitter to help you divide up audio. So yeah, I really hope it has Bluetooth 5, but again, there's currently no reports of that. I sure hope so, though. Let's see. Big Time Apple Sheep says, did you know there's a channel called Huge Apple Sheep now? Yeah, look at all the parody accounts of me. It's just everyone's bringing out the Apple Sheep. It's great. I love it. I watch a lot of you guys. A lot of people in the chat. I've checked out a lot of your channels, believe it or not. Hey, what do you think of this name? Asks iApple215. iPhone Anniversary Edition, iPhone AE. Do you think that the iPhone edition would come with 512 gigabytes of storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM? Anniversary Edition, personally, it's just redundant. I think you could just say edition and it would get the point across. I think that's too many syllables at once. No one's going to call it AE. I think they just call it the new iPhone, the fancy one. Name's going to be weird no matter what. It's going to not make sense no matter what they choose to certain people, because there's obviously like genres of every Apple fan that's like, no, it'll be 8, no, it'll be X, no, it'll be 2017, no, it'll be iPhone Pro, no, it'll be anniversary. It's going to confuse someone, whatever they go with. I thought a lot about this because back when they introduced 256 gigabytes on the iPad Pro, I remember when they unveiled that, we were like, whoa, they're making big jumps now. Now we have the same storage on MacBooks as we do on iPads. So I feel like since we have 512 gigabyte iPads now, won't they implement that into the iPhone? For a while I said maybe that's the next step, but I'm also thinking maybe not, because the price of this iPhone is so incredibly high. Perhaps trying to stuff half a terabyte into it is just too overkill. Like, in order to keep the price down, they're not going to do that. But maybe they will. I don't know. Obviously, if they do it and they can keep the price basically reasonable, that'd be great. But as of now, what we know is that there'll be 2 storage configurations, and most people are theorizing it'll be 64 gigs and 256. It would be great if it turned out to be 128 and 512. It's kind of the same ratio, but it would just be more storage to find out that the base iPhone will be 128. That would be wonderful. But I feel like the price of this iPhone is already going to be so hugely out of control that I kind of hope they don't try to stuff 512 in it. That's because if it ends up costing $1,500 for 512 gigs, then jeez. Anyway. Moses Hansen says, Touch ID or Face Unlock? Why? This is a very tough question, which you guys know my opinion on because I made a video about it. But the reason it's a tough question is because we know very little about Apple's 3D Face Unlock. We know, first of all, that it's very different from Samsung's, because the Galaxy S8's Face Unlock does not use 3D mapping technology. Apple bought like an entire augmented reality. They bought a whole company that's designed for mapping out 3D versions of faces. So this is far more intricate and far more detailed than just making sure it's like Facebook. You know, Facebook has face detection. It can look at someone and say these 2 people are the same person, and that's been built into iPhoto and Photos for the longest time. So that's not a new technology. So what we're assuming is that the 3D Face Unlock is using a giant combination of lots of things. One being an iris scanner, because it looks like there's 4 sensors on the top of the leaks, and there will be 2 cameras that are mapping out your face when you look at it. And I hope what that means is when we have those extra cameras is that one of them is wider angled, because right now the S8 with its iris unlock, it's so narrow viewed, like you can't. The S8, there's a difference between this and this. You cannot unlock it with your irises if it's facing slightly off, because the iris scanner is so narrow looking at you. So I'm hoping that with 3D Face Unlock, they give you a ton more wiggle room in what everything Apple Pro is saying, which, if this is true, but I have a hard time believing it, but if it is true, it would be a game changer. You could have the iPhone sitting like right here on a table, and when you walk up to it, it could see your face and unlock. If that's the case, I think it has much bigger potential to beat Touch ID. If that's the case, and it's actually that fluent, that reliable and that secure, they might not bring Touch ID on next year's iPhone. Even if the technology to build it underneath the screen, even if that comes out and it's ready, maybe they won't go through with it because they figure, no, 3D Face Unlock, that's the better way to go. It's more efficient. And a lot of people are saying, like, well, what if you take someone else's iPhone, point it at them to unlock it, and then they run off? Well, it's like, if you consider the fact that it only runs when you're looking at it, this could be far more secure than Touch ID, because it means that, you know, with Touch ID, you put your finger there, it unlocks, and then you have full access. If it's Face Unlock, perhaps they could have different options. And again, I'm theorizing because we don't know what this tech is capable of. It could be like, as soon as someone takes it out of your hand and starts using it, it locks. Like, even if they're right in front of you, because they grab it from your control. The 3D face looks at that person's face and says, you're not a certified user, locks it out again. That is definitely possible, and I think not a technology possible with fingerprint reader, because when you're using your iPhone, you don't leave your finger on the Touch ID sensor the entire time. However, with 3D Face Unlock, this is something that could be constantly going on. So I think the potential, if 3D Face Unlock is as powerful as people are saying it is, or as it's rumored to be, it could be better than Touch ID, and they might ditch Touch ID altogether and say, this is the better way to go. And they'll implement it on the iPads, the MacBooks, they'll put it on everything. But until then, we won't know until the iPhone officially comes out. So there can't be a definitive answer. If 3D Face Unlock is breakthrough, imaginary, changes everything, then I'm going to say that's better. But if it's not much different than the Galaxy S8, where you have to hold it just right, can't really see you from a distance, doesn't work in daylight, if it's that specific, then Touch ID, obviously, better way to go. Anyway, we got some donations. KXTG2224 excuse me, says, thanks for the great videos, keep up the great work, thank you for your donation. Osiris Martinez says, you overestimate Apple ecosystem. Most people I know with iPhone just have phone. The ecosystem isn't a factor. They just believe only iPhone is good. No, I know there's a lot of people. I'm not saying that people who are single-handedly iPhone users are the reason they stick with Apple. I think a lot of people admit that Apple is the best at making smartphones, but not the best at making computers. Like, Windows is the way to go with computers. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying that's the Apple ecosystem is something that only Apple has. There is not another company with a parallel ecosystem. As in, if Apple released a product that shouldn't work, that is a flop, we wouldn't know it, because Apple sheep, that's who I am, have such dedicated loyalty to Apple that they're going to buy it no matter what. You know, I bought an Apple Watch. I never wore watches. I was not a watch guy. But I knew, because I have this loyalty to Apple, because of my ecosystem, I knew that if I got this Apple Watch, I would use it, I would enjoy it, and I would be satisfied with it, and I would become so used to it, I couldn't live without it. That's my argument with the Apple ecosystem, is that it's unparalleled. There's not a Windows ecosystem that is as strong. There's not an Android ecosystem that is that conformed, that reliable, and that uniform together. Apple has no competition in the ecosystem field. Everything else, you have to have a diverse ecosystem. You got to have an Android phone, Windows tablet, gaming PC running, Windows 7 if you want it to work. You have to have cross-platforms for a separate ecosystem to work. With Apple, everything can work together, and every product they sell is a major player in every field. That's what I mean when I'm talking about how cool the Apple ecosystem it is, and that's why Apple has such a hardcore user base, and you don't see that elsewhere. There's not diehard Android fans that can complete that ecosystem. I don't know very many people who are like, I only use the Pixel Chromebook that was discontinued. I only use the Google Pixel. I only use the Pixel C tablet. That doesn't exist. You got people who use the Google Pixel, but they have an HP laptop or an HP Chromebook, and it's kind of all over the place. Let's see. Sugar Cyan Rose says, do you think only black and white will be the color options for iPhone Edition? Well, Venya Geskin was saying that there will be 4 colors, but he's kind of fuzzy on the matter. I think that the leak he probably saw said that there were 4 different varying options. I think there's a lot of ways to translate that, and usually we're pretty bad at guessing colors, I think, with leaks, unless you see photos, which no one is. What I think he could have saw was 2 colors with 2 storage configurations on each one. Because when people say, there's 4 colors, you're like, which ones? They're like, oh, I don't know. It's just 4. It's probably because they got a leaked email or something that showed 4 different versions of the iPhone edition. It could have been he saw 64 and 256 gig versions of white, 64, 256 gig versions of black. That would have showed up as 4 different varying options. Or there could be 4. Obviously, I want there to be a ton of color options, but I really doubt it because they're going through so many manufacturing issues right now. Like, there's so low in demand, they're really hard to manufacture, they're very expensive to make. So I'm imagining that in terms of diversity, there's not going to be very much. So I'm going to expect the worst and say there's really only 2 colors. It'll be just like the stainless steel sapphire versions of the Apple Watch Series 2. There's the space black version and the shiny mirror version. And that's what Ben Yageskin was saying, is that there's this new color that's mirror finish, kind of like classic iPod days. You know, it's all reflective on the back, scratches like crazy. I'm anticipating there will be that jet black version that we see in all the leaks. You know, it looks kind of like a jet black iPhone 7. That'll be one version, and then the other one will be mirror finish white, if you will. You know, something like that. I personally don't like the idea of having gold glass. So if they are going to do gold and rose gold or product red, I wouldn't want the glass on the back to be gold and rose gold because it's not reflective. You know, glass is all kind of one color, so it wouldn't really look like aluminum as it does now. I think on the back they should keep it white, but the aluminum bumper around it can be gold and rose gold. An Apple logo can be gold and rose gold, or product red, whatever. Yeah, as Justin Ebb is saying, gold glass sucks. I don't think you can't really make glass look like gold, and if you do, it doesn't look right. So I'm anticipating if they are going to do lots of colors, it's still for the most part going to stand by the primary colors of white and black. It won't be as noticeably diverse as the iPhone 7 lineup is right now. I know you've spoke on it in the past. This is Sean Brent, by the way. But assuming the new iPhone comes with wireless charging, do you think it will be ahead of the market? Is Apple ready to make wireless charging great? Well, I sure hope so, given we've had wireless charging for a while. I feel like if Apple's breaking into this means that it's been perfected, right? They've experimented with it. They make sure this is the best kind. I'm hoping that this wireless charging is very fast and efficient. It's not too slow. And I actually have a challenge I want to commit myself to, which might be a little difficult because we've found out that in a more recent rumor, wireless charging might not be ready when the iPhone ships out. Like, wireless chargers might come out later in the year, like in December. But when that is true, when wireless charging is available, I want to commit myself to saying I will no longer use any port on the iPhone. Maybe to go as far as to say I'll seal it with something. I'll make sure that I can't use the port and just tell people that, yes, it is possible to live life without the port on the iPhone. Once wireless charging comes out, I plan on never using a port, the one Lightning port on the iPhone. I will use AirPods at all times. I will use wireless charging for when I need to charge the phone, and that's it. Obviously, I'll need cables to charge my MacBook, iPad, but and my Apple Watch and charge the AirPods. So those still don't have wireless charging yet. But well, the Apple Watch is wireless charging, but it's like no portless charging is the word I've forgotten to keep using in my videos. It's not technically wireless because you got to plug in the wireless charger, but what I mean is portless. I'm going to try to live portless when wireless charging comes out. I'm going to commit myself to that. Andrew Burren says, do you think they will bring the 3-pin connector from the iPad Pro to the iPhones? Not this time. It doesn't seem like there's any leaks or rumors confirming that they're bringing the smart connector, I think is what you mean to call it, to this iPhone. They talked about it for a long time, but I feel like they're getting ahead of themselves at this point where you can do NFC with, quick data transfer right next to each other, and we can deliver power wirelessly now. the smart connector on the back of the iPhone might not be necessary, because you can have cases that strap onto the back of the iPhone that deliver power and data wirelessly through NFC and inductive charging. If they have that, there's really no need to keep adding new ports or coming up with different smart connector ports on the back of the iPhone. At that point, what's the point in keeping around the smart connector? Which the only really idea of having smart connectors on the iPhone was that you could have like more functional cases, which I love, but at this point, if you can do that wirelessly, don't put the smart connector on, especially if it's going to be glass on the back. It's very difficult to put the pins on there. What kind of MacBook or iMac would you recommend for things like graphic designing? Asked Amsterdam. Graphic designing, any of them really work. If you're just talking about like Photoshop and Illustrator, I think even the 12-inch MacBook would do you good. But for the most part, all of them really work right now. Just get yourself a nice Mac. You'll be satisfied. Can you super chat from the mobile version of YouTube? Not on iOS, but if you go on Safari on iOS and load up YouTube on Safari and ask for the desktop version of YouTube, you will be able to super chat. Henry St. John is asking if I'm buying the iMac Pro, and I've talked about this numerous times. I'm going to mention it again on here, though. I will try my hardest. I am saving as much money as I can. I'm selling old tech. I'm putting aside money. I'm trying not to spend too much, but it's not a guarantee thing. It's like a 50-50 chance of being able to afford the iMac Pro. I'm not going to wipe out my bank account on one product. I think it's a big move for Apple, and I obviously would like to review it, and I want to buy it, but it's so expensive, it's so insanely pricey that I'm not going to say it's a guaranteed thing. Yes, I'm going to buy the iMac Pro. Don't count on it, but just trust that with my wise management of money and my highest efforts, depending on how many views I get and how much you guys super chat or donate on Patreon or buy Tailosive merchandise, that will all be the deciding factor on if I get the iMac Pro to review. I'm going to try, but no guarantees. Instead of getting the iMac Pro, you could get a new camera for all of your videos. It's worth investing in because we already know what the iMac Pro is. It's a higher spec iMac. Tech Center, it's a good point. I did a Twitter poll on this about whether people wanted a new camera or a new iMac Pro. The thing is about the new camera is that when I make my new purchase, which I know what I want to buy something that has exchangeable lenses, because I used to do that, but I wanted a camera that could do 4K and 1080 at 60. I did. However, in order to afford a camera that could do that, I had to buy one that was a fixed lens that doesn't. It's right here. It's a Lumix. This is what I shoot my videos on, and the lens does not come off, which is not great, but what it does allow me to do is shoot at 4K, at 1080, at 60 for a very good price. That's why I got this, and I've had it for several years now. But if I do make an upgrade in the camera department, I want something that can push the boundaries even further. So what I was looking at is the GH5, which is what everything Apple Pro uses. That allows you to shoot 4K at 60 frames a second, because if I'm buying a new camera, I want it to be a complete jump. I don't want just there to be more stops of dynamic range. That's just one thing. I want like a massive upgrade. I want new lenses, I want a new format option, and I think it would be great if I could start filming videos at a high resolution, that as well as a new higher frame rate. That way I don't have to choose 4K or 60 FPS. I could finally just have both. To be able to do that, I'm going to need a new computer. That's inevitable. The other problem is when I review camera equipment in the past, the views, the way the videos perform aren't nearly as good. As in, buying a new camera instead of the iMac Pro is not going to help my channel grow very much. Whereas the iMac Pro, that's a high-end premium product. People are going to watch the unboxings for that. They're going to watch the reviews for that because it's a high-end demand product. Cameras never do too well when I review them. Every time I review a camera, it's like, no one really cares. It's a camera. But if I do buy a new camera, I want it to be a leap. I don't want just the same format options while it looks a little better. And if I get something with more, that can write at a higher bit rate, I'm going to need a computer with a lot more storage, because this is a very powerful computer, but it only has 256 gigs, which I run out of constantly. So it's very easily a getting a cart before the horse situation where I'm not ready for a better camera. I need an upgrade in the storage, in the processor department before I can make another camera jump. And a lot of people have mentioned that the main reason they watch my videos is because of the commentary and the comedy. People don't subscribe to me because of my extremely professional looking videos. And to be honest, getting a new camera is not going to drastically change my set. It's not going to change the fact that I have to film in this attic with awkwardly green walls and I'm just going to have a bunch of old tech behind me. It's not going to make a giant jump in production value, but it will cost me thousands of dollars. So that's why I think that the iMac Pro purchase has to come first before I can make a new camera purchase. Hope that makes sense. Will the iPhone edition get 120 Hz Pro motion display? Yeah, I really hope so. That's a great feature on the 10.5-inch iPad. I think that alone could set it aside from the competition because I know that's something that the Galaxy's phones don't have. And True Tone as well. I love True Tone on my iPad. So if they could bring True Tone as well as the the Pro Motion onto the iPhone, which is a much smaller display, that would be a great way to set it apart from the competition. Anyway, we got a new donation from Sean Burnt. Thank you very much. Says, here's to your fund for the new iMac Pro. I went to save up too, but you have more potential. Love your videos and love seeing your channel grow. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Sean. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate that. And believe me, all of these donations are going directly into the iMac Pro fund. And it's not just that. People may look at my videos and estimate that, okay, well, 1,000 views means $1. So that means he has to get 500,000 views. No, he has to get 5 million views to be able to afford the iMac Pro. And people are calculating how I can spend my money. But look, the other thing is, iMac Pro isn't the only thing I got to review this year. iPhone Edition's probably the most necessary one. Like the iMac Pro, that's a maybe. Can I afford it? iPhone Edition's no question. I need to buy that because the hype is so big. I need to review it for you guys. Most people on YouTube are going to be searching for that. So realistically, for my business, for my channel, that is a must buy. The other thing is we're anticipating an Apple Watch Series 3 to come out. That is also something I anticipate to buy. As well as there's a new product line, the HomePod. Another purchase I'm going to make this year. So it's not just, can he get $5 grand? Because taxes on top of that, iMac Pro is going to be more like $5,500. There's going to be a $1,200 iPhone, $400 Apple Watch, $350 HomePod, $80 wireless charger. There's a ton of stuff I got to be able to afford. So I'm really pushing it here. Do you think there could be unlimited storage on the iPhone edition? Well, Summer, nothing's unlimited, but we may see a push towards more cloud storage. You know, if Apple starts upgrading iCloud so that everyone gets 20 gigs, or for a little amount of money you can get easily 2 terabytes that iOS will automatically start backing up old files that you don't access very more and start backing that up to iCloud. I think it does that already, but do many computers have a 4K display? When do you think the MacBook will get one? Steph, it's a simple question of just statistically what your eyes can notice. The reason Apple isn't putting 4K in a MacBook is because your eyes would not notice it. At a certain distance and at a certain screen size, pixels start to not matter very much. That's why they call this a Retina display. From a normal viewing distance, I cannot see the pixels on my MacBook. If they added it to 4K, it means that your battery life wouldn't be as good. It means that the graphics card, the processor, would have to work a lot harder to do the same thing. And it would just make the computer have to work a lot harder for something that your eye isn't going to notice. That's why you're not seeing 4K put on here. When Dell puts 4K on their laptops, it's more of a selling feat. It's more of like a buyer's perk. It's like, look, 4K on a laptop, more than it is a functional use. It's 2.7K, 4K on a 15-inch display, unnoticeable difference. What is noticeable is the nits, how bright it is, the color, the HDR. That's what Apple is working on. New MacBooks come out this year. They improve the displays. They make them look better. Adding pixels isn't going to change anything. Scott Sullivan says that plus it isn't even used in the full resolution. It's scaled down. There you go. You don't even notice. Is USB-C really as simple as you think? Carlos, no, because A lot of people don't know this. There are different versions of USB-C, and it's not because the industry is stupid. I noticed a lot of people, like Gus from Rooster Teeth, complaining that the people who are in charge of USB-C and designing the port are idiots because there's like different varying versions of it. There's some that deliver some power and some data, and there's some that deliver far more power and a whole lot more data. Like, not every USB-C port is Thunderbolt 3. They do that because it would be ridiculous to have a port that is, you know, full Thunderbolt 3, full, you know, 87 watt capability. If you're putting it into a smartphone, that's overkill, and it would make the phone cost more, and it would make the port really, really hard to manufacture if they had to make sure that, you know, the MacBook Pro's Thunderbolt 3 port that can transfer so many gigabytes a second and can transfer so much power to this giant battery all at once for something like a Google Pixel. That battery's so tiny, that processor doesn't need to do nearly as much as this does, so it'd be ridiculous to try to make every USB-C port Thunderbolt 3. So what they do is USB-C ports, depending on if it's a smartphone or a MacBook, variate in how much power they can deliver and how much data. That makes the phone stay affordable. However, it's great because since the ports are all the same shape, they are fairly cross-platform. So that doesn't mean that USB-C on the Google Pixel is just as slow as micro USB as Android phones used to have. You can still have fast charging, but you just don't need the extensive amount of power transfer that this MacBook Pro has, which charges really fast, giant battery because it uses so much power. To try to stuff that into every single smartphone that uses USB-C isn't efficient. That's why there's varying forms of USB-C. Some USB-C is Thunderbolt 3, some of it isn't. But the difference is all ports are the same. Similarly, this was no different than the USB port before. We've got 3.1 ports, but we still have a lot of companies that still sell USB 2.0. Because for like stuff like keyboards and mice, you don't need to put 3.1. USB 2.0 still works. You're just transferring characters and, you know, mouse inputs. You don't need to pay the extra money in order to have higher data transfer when it's something regular like that. So USB-C having different versions of itself isn't any different than what USB was before. Anyway. Simple name, says, do you think Apple will turn off the display pixels on the top area of the iPhone and only display the battery/connection there, even when being in apps? To answer your question, Venya Geskin tweeted out his concept of what he thinks software-wise they'll do with blacking out the top, I don't know what you want to call it, the display that goes around that HUD at the top and just have the battery and the cell connection there. That seems to make the most sense to me, especially if it's an OLED display. That means that black pixels are just off pixels and it would save battery, and it would mean that the operating system can have rounded corners on all edges. I also think that when you're screen recording, those top little ears, I don't know what you want to call them, at the top, those won't show up. It'll just screen record the primary aspect ratio. Maybe it won't even screen record the home button at the bottom. I don't know why it would need to do that. Or like when you take a screenshot, for instance, it's not going to capture where your your front-facing camera and your earpiece are on your phone. There's no need for it to record that. So I think Venya Geskin's interpretation of the iOS on the iPhone edition was the most accurate. I thought he was pretty spot on. Will the 2018 iPhone get USB-C, or will Apple kill the port completely? Well, Barney wrote that with a laughing emoji and him doing this, but I honestly think that's going to happen, because I know that Apple likes to remove things when people don't think we're ready for them. I can easily imagine the video coming out about me defending why not having a port isn't the worst thing in the world, because when I get the Apple wireless charging pad, I'm going to stop using the port on my iPhone altogether just to prove a point. I think I'm going to make that a challenge for this channel. Like, I'm going to tell people that I never plug anything into my iPhone ever, which will be tricky, but I think it'll be worth it ultimately. Because I'll be so ready that when eventually an iPhone comes out that doesn't have ports, I'll be like, yeah, I know, I'm used to it. I get the counter arguments. It's not saying that regular wireless charging is perfect, because people say I like to use my phone while it's plugged in. I'm doing that right now. While live streaming this, I have my Lightning cable plugged into my iPhone. So it's going to be a real challenge being able to charge your phone only when it's on a wireless charging pad. But I think what Apple's going to do, they're going to expand the battery as much as they can. They're going to expand the battery life to be significantly higher than it is now to make sure that you don't need to charge it all the time. And they're going to... They're going to realize that you can have better waterproofing. And, if you don't have that lightning port in your phone, there's a lot more room for the battery. Now that there's no holes, they can expand the battery a lot further. It could be 2 cells. And they'll make wireless charging faster, and then they'll even start theorizing how to make, true wireless charging where it's far away. It doesn't have to be on a pad, but we're not ready for that yet. So Apple likes to remove things before we're ready to get rid of them. That's why I think that in 2018, people should start preparing to say goodbye to the port in general. So no USB-C to answer your question. For those asking about how my trip was to San Diego, I did a whole vlog about it on Tailosive Talks. You guys should check it out over there. Do you use the Creator Studio app on your phone? Asks the Coding Kid. Yes, I do, and it sucks. I got a whole, scroll full of problems that YouTube has with the Creator Studio app. Like, I use it because it's all I have, but there's so many things they could do better on there that are so simple to fix. Like, don't you feel like the Creator Studio app should tell you how many subscribers you have? It doesn't. It tells you how many subscribers you've gained in the last 30 days, but it won't tell you how many you have right now. Also, it doesn't tell you which comments have the most likes. Like when people comment on a video and a bunch of people like it, it shows up at the top. Why can't the Creator Studio app in the comments tab tell you that this comment got 92 likes? So it'd be like, oh, a lot of people agree with that comment, I'm going to respond to it. Instead, you got to go to the separate YouTube standalone app, find your video, which, by the way, you can't subscribe to yourself, so you can't just see your video in your subscriptions. You have to go to your channel, find the video you posted, scroll down to the comments, and then respond to people there. Why can't they build that into the Creator Studio app? Why can't you upload videos from that? No, you got to get the Creator app. It's ridiculous. Google's not good. And it doesn't show end cards. And the YouTube app on the Apple TV is awful too. They don't show the cards on anything. There's no annotations, and they don't show the description. Like, YouTube's so, I don't know, something messed up. Would you get the iPhone edition? When you get the iPhone edition, can you film a video on it without telling us? If we can't tell, then it's a testament to the edition's camera quality. Finley, I bet the camera, if I did that, people would be they would notice it right away. The iPhone cameras have a very specific way of compressing video, and I know that the sensor on the next iPhone is going to be better, but iOS still compresses videos in such a way that it's very noticeable. I tried filming a tech video on my iPhone 7 Plus when I got it, but it's just so noticeably different from my regular Lumix camera, so it wouldn't be a subtle thing. I don't think the camera's going to be overly different from the 7 Plus. It'll be better, but it won't be drastically bigger. I want them to add things like 4K at 60, or Apple makes 5K displays. What if they added 5K recording to the iPhone? Now that it has an A11 chip, the camera bulge is bigger, so maybe the camera sensors are larger. I want the camera to be better, but ultimately I don't think it's going to be noticeable. Joel Burke, thank you for your super chat. Says, love the channel. Thoughts on the use of the NFC chip on the iPhone being open to developers, and if you could change Apple, what would it be? That's great that they're opening up the NFC chip. I think they were trying to keep it secure when they first introduced it, but maybe they're more confident now that it's not going to stray too far, that it can't be hacked so much. They're more confident, so they're opening it up. And if I could change one thing about Apple, it would be... Man, one thing. Does it count to say, like, the uniformity of the products? Because that's kind of broad, I know, but it's like, if there's a certain color iPhone, I want that color to be available on all the products. If there's a product red iPhone, there should be product red AirPods, there should be a product red iPad, product red MacBook, there should just be a whole array of product red. And what I mean by uniformity is also like the naming. The naming is so messed up right now. It's okay to give products numbers. Just call it the iPad Pro 2, Don't call it the new iPad Pro, or don't call it the 2017 iPad. Just call it the iPad Air 3. Don't call it the 12-inch MacBook. Call it the MacBook Air. It's the refresh to the MacBook Air. So I would just try to make all their lineup of products just be a bit more uniform with each other, so that all the names make sense. We could have the lightest iPhone be called the iPhone Air, the middle iPhone called the iPhone, the biggest iPhone called the iPhone Pro. Line that up with MacBook, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, iPad, iPad Air, iPad Pro. Just make the systems make more sense, because right now the naming is so confusing. I don't understand any of it. It's all over the place. When do you think the back-to-school sale will start? Probably when it's back-to-school time. August. Doesn't it always start then? Do you think the 2018 iPhone will have the face recognition sensors, etc. under the display? Oh, yeah. It's James here. Good question. There was a lot of concept art of people saying that they were going to build the OLED display just around the earpiece, and that all of the face unlock features, including the front-facing camera, those would just be underneath the OLED display. There was patents that said they figured that out, but clearly the more recent leaks say that they haven't figured that out. I have no proof of this, but what I think happened is that they figured out how to embed the sensors underneath the screen. They know they can do that, but the problem was manufacturing it is so complicated they couldn't figure it out. They said it takes too long, but we'll save that for next year's. So I think that would be a great little added design bonus to next year's iPhone, is instead of having this giant HUD display that comes down, instead they can embed those sensors underneath the screen, and maybe, just maybe, instead of embedding the earpiece in some awkward part of the display, they'll embed it in between the glass and the stainless steel at the top, kind of like the Essential phone does. The Essential phone has a little cutout for the camera, but that's it. The earpiece is part of the bezel at the top. That way, next year's iPhone is a perfect rectangle, just rounded cornered rectangle, and that's it. And we don't have all this stuff being cut into it like we do now. Big cutout at the top, it's distracting. On the next one, we'll get two sizes, and the display will be full. It won't have weird cuts in it like that. Thank you for your donation, by the way. Roman Atwood Vlogs Abe. Thank you. Okay. Issa says Inception. I remember when I asked you about your opinion on iPhone Air, iPhone, and iPhone Pro. Oh, is that you? That's cool. Yeah, I like that idea of having all the lineup of products being the same. So we have MacBook Air, MacBook, MacBook Pro, iPad Air, iPad, iPad Pro, iPhone Air, iPhone, iPhone Pro. It would be great if they were all the same. They're not going to do that, but that would be great. Do you think that Apple could save money by using the Apple Watch charger to wirelessly charge? Apple Watch charger. The reason that wouldn't work is the Apple Watch charger is not flat. That's why, you know, if you look at the back of the Apple Watch, it's a curved piece of glass. It's not a flat piece of glass. And the back of the iPhone 8, I'm assuming, or iPhone Edition, I should say, not 8, is going to be flat. And the problem is it still has a camera bulge, so whatever the wireless charging pad is going to be on the iPhone Edition, it sadly won't be able to be like my concept of it being a big plate that you can throw all your wireless charging stuff on. I think that would be great if we just had one like square foot of charging area, and you drop your phone there, you drop your watch there, drop your iPad there, charge all of them. Since it has a camera bulge, it's not going to sit evenly on the charging pad, which means that the iPhone one is going to have to be flat, and it's going to have to probably be round and big, but it's not going to take up the whole back of the iPhone. So sadly, I don't think that can happen. It would make sense, but I don't think it will. What would be nice is if they started making an effort to making that charging plate idea, and on the Apple Watch Series 3, they made the glass plate on the back flat, and they made it flush with the Apple Watch. So it's not just a rounded back plate. What am I saying? Back plate, and it's flat so that you can set your iPhone there, your Apple Watch there, and it just wirelessly charges that way. Anyway, Mr. Bidwell, thank you for your donation, says, you think Apple will release a VR accessory like the Google Daydream when the iPhone edition comes out? You know, Apple expressed quite interest in VR at the last keynote. So before I used to say we're not really ready for VR, I don't think Apple's going into it. Now I feel like they're kind of expressing interest. They want to compete with Google Daydream and stuff like that. I personally think VR has a whole set of problems as it is, and I kind of hope they don't jump into VR because I don't think VR's ready yet, but it wouldn't surprise me because I think Apple's kind of betting that they're saying that there's augmented reality features with the 3D face unlock and that new camera. It's oriented differently. That's supposed to help with AR stuff, so it's possible. I'd say not likely, but it's possible that they'd work on stuff like that. The reason why the back of the watch is rounded is to make better contact with the skin. It makes better contact, but I still think you can read the heart rate and everything with flat. It still rests on your arm just as fine. What do you think of Google starting to design their own ARM chips? I think they'll be faster, but it's not going to change the fact that the Google Pixel looks ugly, and the new one coming out after the iPhone edition is also going to look ugly. Not excited for it. Don't care about it. I'll probably have to review it. Well, thank you guys for your donations today. I appreciate all of your support. It's been tremendous talking with you. The next live stream, for those wondering when that's going to be, is going to be this Thursday night. I try to live stream at varying times to reach different parts of the world. So thank you guys for watching today's. Thursdays will probably be after 11 p.m. Pacific time, so hopefully in Europe, Russia, Australia, you guys will be awake and I can talk to a whole different part of the world. So thank you everyone for watching. This is your Apple Ship here. I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.